Because remember, probably the most important thing when you're a reseller is what you source. It's got to be in demand. People have to be looking for it. And then all those other things come into play. How you priced it, how you took your photos, everything on those 2 lists I produced last week about the key factors in doing good listings. And we'll do some more of that. I've got some footage I set aside for improving titles. So each of those items on those 2 lists, we'll probably hit them one at a time, and we'll take a look at that. I only have a few items to pack today, and I've noticed it's been hit and miss lately. Probably because on the days I'm getting consignment lots ready to go out to the auction, I don't do much listing. And sometimes other events, they keep me from listing. And I shouldn't say they keep me. I keep myself from listing sometimes. Listing's boring. It just is. Selling, sourcing, even packing, those are fun things. Listing, not so much. We have been sending out more offers, and we have been running some sales. Rose told me the other day she probably has something like 60% of the items, especially the older items, in the primary store up for sale. She did a Mother's Day sale for all the items she thought might be sought after for Mother's Day, and then she went on to actually run some sales, starting with the oldest sorts and moving forward. And of course, the older the items were, the higher the percentage of discount, because those, for one reason or another, they just simply never really excited the buyer pool, or eBay never offered them and pushed them out to the buyer pool. You can have a little of that going on. So here's the first couple of items that I'll be packing. I brought these out with me from the house. Rest of the items today are already out here. But this one is a whole group of little G.I. Joe type weapons and accessories. I put up the action figures, and these were the items that were all in the bottom of the bag. And I'm certainly not going to spend the time to try to match up these little tiny weapons and accessories with a specific G.I. Joe. All I did in the listing was say, you're getting what's shown at this price. And that I'm not even sure they're all G.I. Joe, because they could be for other franchises. This one's a Batmobile. I remember going to a car show when I was a young man and seeing one of the original Batmobiles with the velvety velour finish on the paint job. And of course, it was one of my first real disappointments. They say you should never meet your heroes. Well, it's the same way with some of the TV props. The camera can make them look very good, but in person, yeah, they're showing their wear. And of course, you can see the flaws. And that is a good point about photography on eBay. Make sure that the photos accurately reflect the products as best you can, because otherwise you'll just have buyer disappointment. And buyer disappointment, it leads to returns, and it leads to INADs. And who needs that hassle? There are enough other things going on in the reselling community that INADs and returns just because you didn't do a good job with your listing. Yeah, it's not needed. Speaking of returns, I've got some footage that I shot a few minutes ago about adding business policy return policies to our stores, because I've decided it's time, in conjunction with starting the upcoming physical inventory, now that we've, or I should say Rose, has produced enough business policy shipping policies that she thinks she's gotten through the stores. She's gotten that cutover done. She's gotten through all the stores. All the listings are ready to go as far as being in the business policy program. We can now start going through the inventory and pulling them up, confirming that they're still active, reviewing them, because some of those listings are old. And of course, you go back a couple of years and we were filling the title with punctuation. We weren't watching for typos as much. The photo quality wasn't as good, right? So it's time in the physical inventory, and it'll be a slow process, but to take a look at those aging listings. And some of them we won't put back up. We'll either group them together, send them to an auction, I'll give them to charity. We'll do something with them, because if they've had a couple of years and they haven't sold, and there's no specific reason for it, like price or bad photos, then it's probably items we should have never sourced anyway. Though, of course, the way I source, I get bundles and groups in. So often I will give something a shot. I've already paid for it because I bought the entire group, so I might as well see what I can recoup for some of those secondary items. But how long do you hold them, especially now that we've downsized at the lake and space has become more critical than ever before, especially if we want to sell our offsite where I store some overstock and my surplus packing material. Because if that has to come back here, then I've got to make room for it in this shop. Well, there's Steve. It's actually a lot quieter today. Sun is out, wind has died down. Still a little crisp this morning. It's only coming up on 9. Road trip day. Today would have been a good day to make a video here this morning, but instead we're taking an opportunity to head north, do an auction pickup. Yeah, quiet's a relative term at the lake. Population density is a little too high to ever get complete silence. You can hear a small plane in the background, the occasional neighbor's dog. Geese are quiet today. Wind has died down. That's always a big problem when recording, especially if I forget to put the mics in, turn them on, and hit the button for the wind deflection. And the thing about road trips and opportunity is that sometimes it only takes a phone call. You know, you've got your day planned, you get a phone call, it changes the way things are going to play out. It was like the trip to Renton earlier in the week. I knew I had to go up there over the next few days to pick up the auction lots I had won, but a call changed it. We left the next morning and we picked up some additional items because the auction house was downsizing because of a remodeling on the premises. The process that I usually follow is I ask if they can send a few photos, and they did. They sent me a couple pictures. Now, I was interested in what was in the pictures, but mostly I needed to know the volume. I needed to know whether we could pick up the items we were scheduled to, plus this extra group of old tools, or whether I'd need to take the pickup truck. You know, if I can take Rose's little Kia, it's a lot more economical on gas for a 3-hour round trip. Knowing what vehicle, what size you're going to put the haul in is a key factor. So she sent me a few photos. Of course, when we got up there, there were more items actually in the group than were in her photos, and I'll show you that. And you have to expect that. So you need to plan to fill the vehicle to make the trip worthwhile, especially if you don't know the individual condition of the items and you can't clearly see them in the photos. Because, well, let's face it, you've got to be able to assess it and make a decision. Now, the final decision, of course, was made standing there in front of it. I could have turned it down. And some of that has to do with the fact that the auction house had an issue. They're having to condense. And if I want to keep relationships good with the auction house and they're offering me something, I have to seriously consider it because they take care of me. So it's a reciprocal commitment. As you do your business and you go about making contacts, it's important to keep the needs of the contacts in mind. You know, you help them out, they call you when they've got an opportunity they think will work for you. Yeah, it works out better that way in the long run. Do I sometimes pick up items that I can't really do much with? Yes, in a bulk buy, it happens. It solves their problem, the burden passes to me, but if it's not really costing me anything and I'm already surplusing other items, I don't see it as a big deal. But if the volume had tipped that scale over to my truck, it would have been a whole different issue. I'd have been more careful about sorting through what they were offering to take what I could actually use. Well, this is Brian. As soon as Rose has got her hair ready, we're going to hit the road and do an auction pickup. Whoever's running the eBay advertisement program back at eBay headquarters, yeah, it's gotten so far out of control for so long. But to actually start generating messages about the item you ordered, just so that data offering you more things to buy, yeah, it's become ridiculous. I've even started getting, if I do buy something, before it even arrives, I get a message asking me if I want to sell it. Now, how's that for a markup? Is eBay so hard up for product and sellers that before you even take delivery of your item, there's a link there to click on it to resell it? let's talk about that drop shipper. Because like I say, as long as Rose was placing an Amazon order today, I had her add a couple more of those grippies. Now that was a guy. It's an interesting story in that he claimed to be a small family business, though his business is drop shipping. And I went out and I asked him, I said, I got the items. I was surprised that they came in an Amazon package, in an Amazon delivery. And I guess technically I wasn't all that surprised, because when his first email said one day, we figured it was probably going to be Amazon. But I took the casual approach to asking him to explain himself. I said, what's going on? I bought it on eBay. It came from Amazon, has Amazon packaging. I wanted to see what his comment was. And he did give me the standard line about, we work with partners in a fulfillment center and our sourcers. And I'm thinking drop shipper. And of course, I'd already checked out his other items for sale on eBay. And it looks just like you're shopping on Amazon. He even brought in the same pictures. He made very little effort to do any cover-up of anything other than drop shipping. Had about 9,300 listings. So I went back out to him when he came back with the answer. And he said, because on the bottom of his message, he says, let me know if you have any other questions. So I made another inquiry, got a little bit deeper into it. And he came back and he said, we comply with all eBay policies. I laughed. So I went back out to him and said, well, as long as you brought that up about eBay policy compliance, I don't think you do. I think there are at least two specific questions or issues that you have, and one of them has to do with not shipping in accordance with your listing. The other has to do with violating the line in the policy that says they can't go out to other retailers and buy the product to have it sent to us without actually working with wholesalers. As time progressed and he responded, I got a little more specific and a little more intense about pointing out what I saw as a policy violation on his part to sell Amazon items to eBay shoppers. I haven't heard from the guy since. He's gone crickets. He didn't answer that message. And in the end, because I don't think he was really forthcoming or factual or truthful, I think I'm going to send those items back. I'll send them back as an INAD, and we'll see how that plays out. And that's the reason I say sometimes these stories, they run through multiple videos, or I hold the video in the editor to see how it ends up. An example of that would be the purple Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtle. I highlighted it in an earlier video as an item that I sold, and I was able to use Google Lens to track it down, and the guy really wanted it. Well, it arrived broken. But not everything we try to do to make money in retirement works out. You just got to make sure you're not expending too much time and too much investment capital to give those things a try. Some do, some don't. Now, as I look through the drop shipping policy for eBay, one of the funny things about it was that even in their own policies, they're inconsistent. In one place, I think it's the opening sentence, it says, "you shall." And you go down a couple more lines and it says, "you should." Now, for my whole life, especially since I was a young technician, there are certain key words when it comes to compulsory compliance, and that's what they are. They're telling you whether you have to do something or whether you have the option to do something. And I remember back when I was a young sailor, 18, 19, 20, I was put in charge of the technical library for our division. And we would get the tech manuals to support the equipment. And these were big paper-bound books. And the Navy didn't like reprinting them every time somebody noticed a typo or a page had to be changed. We would routinely get updates. They'd either send you a sheet and it would tell you, go to page 12, line out this word, add that word, or they'd send you one loose sheet and you would unbind these books, take out the old sheet, replace the new sheet. And that would normally happen if there was something more complicated, like a technical drawing, and they couldn't have you making the changes to the drawing, so they'd send you a new page. And then in the front, there'd be an index where you'd say what change you had just made, when it was made, and put your own information in there. And next to all these pen and ink changes, you'd initial them to show that you made the change. In the front of those books, there'd be a page, and on it, it would actually give you a definition. and it would say, in this book, the following words mean. And if the word was you will or you must, now those were enforceable. If you didn't follow those instructions and something happened, you could lose a stripe. You could lose a pay grade. And other times it would say you should or you could. And those words, of course, were optional. They were advisable, but not required. So when somebody like eBay produces a policy and they're going to enforce it, and they're going to say a little later on that they can put sanctions on your account, they can remove your listings, they can suspend your account for failure to comply. You would think they would actually be able to straighten out the difference between you should and you must. And of course, this could be what that reseller, that dropshipper, is relying on, the vagueness. He can defend himself because he says, well, I was looking over here. It said I should. Over here, it said I must. But I didn't see that. Dropshipping, great topic.